Your old art isn't just cringe, it's your personal treasure trove for learning. I've lost count of how many times I've drawn stuff I feel very proud of, stuff I feel like showing to everyone, like it was my ultimate masterpiece. 2 days later, be like, well, this is kinda trash. It makes me sad falling out of love with the art that once was very meaningful to me. The same art that made me feel like I was going places, finally understanding the puzzle that is art learning, or simply the art that I had fun creating. I don't want to look back at my old art and just see the flaws and the mistakes that I made, because I think these drawings still hold value, true in their own unique way. And so for today's video, I want to revisit one old drawing of mine, one that sparked joy in me when I first painted it, and take both the negatives and the positives to create a new version of this fairy. And by the end, we'll see if I managed to redeem her. So yeah, this was a very long excuse of introduction just to say this is a redraw your old art type of video. Let's start by dissecting this fairy. So, what exactly went wrong? Anatomy is clearly missing here, because what the hell is this neck? And why is her back melting? In retrospect, I remember I was winging it most of the time. I think I didn't even have a sketch. I just started piecing her out, so maybe that explains the wonky anatomy. There's no facial structure on the horizon. That's probably the reason why her eyebrows are just floating around the face. And also, I don't understand the shape. Something tells me I was trying really hard to copy the shading from some anime characters, but obviously I failed. Lastly, I feel she needs a bit more character. I mean, there's nothing wrong with drawing your characters looking outside of the canvas to the infinity and beyond. I've seen artists I admire drawing their characters in a similar fashion, and despite not having them performing a clear action, because they're basically just existing on the canvas, you still get a sense of liveness in them. So this leaves us with fixing the following issues: wonky anatomy / figure drawing, no facial structure, and lack of character. Now, on to the positives. Colors! Green is one of my absolute favorites. These are some of the green stuff I have to decorate my room. I think values are balanced and the fairy is readable. For the costume, the transparent fabric looks nice, and this little floral embroidery adds some sense of texture and dimension to her costume. Silhouette-wise, you cannot really tell what the character is doing when I dial up the contrast, but shapes are not bad in my opinion. In short, I want to keep the colors, the stylized proportions, because I also noticed that her head is huge in comparison to her body, but considering she's a fairy, I think we can get away with that. We are also keeping the big anime eyes, the hairy eyebrows, and the dress. Now, with all this information, we can go into the stressful but fun part, which is the actual redrawing. This took me about 5 hours to figure it out, which is a lot considering I already had a character, colors, and a vibe in place. I think this is because I knew I was recording my process to post it, and I got a bit anxious about making mistakes or zooming in and out too much, something which I do quite often to check if I'm heading in the right direction or if I'm just making the character look worse. Despite the bumpy start, I eventually got my sketch in place. Look at the difference between the first 10 minutes and just 16 minutes into drawing. If that's not a testament to have faith in the process, I don't know what is. I often feel I have to have the best lines and shapes as soon as I start drawing, but I realize that in the current place where I'm in terms of skill, I tend to find beauty or sense by slowly building up details and not judging the first lines I put on my canvas, even if they look like this. So once my sketch was ready, I went straight to coloring. Months ago, I would have probably lowered the opacity of my OG sketch and then tried to clean it up a bit before coloring. This time, I tried to use what I already had in place to see if I can optimize my process a bit more. I don't like that these past months, I haven't created much original art aside from practice drawings and studies. And I've been trying to make myself understand that if I spend too much time perfecting just a single piece of drawing or looking for the perfect line art, the less time I'll have to explore all the things I'm always daydreaming about creating. I also think it's silly for me to put so much energy into line art when at the end of the day, at least for this style I'm going for, more often than not, it is color the part that stands out in the final art and not the OG lines of my sketch. See how my lines are washed out when I apply the colors here. Immediately after applying my base colors, I got stuck in the ugly stage for hours and I was very close to fully abandon this fairy. The face didn't look right for me, and so I had to slow down and try different paint passes until this started to make sense. I have this thing that if I cannot visualize the face of my character, I see no potential in the whole drawing, and I simply cannot focus on other areas or sometimes even finish the piece until I get the face right. So that's the reason why she looks slightly different at the end. And once I managed to solve the face problem, I started to enjoy the process again. This is the part where everything comes together, and the only thing that's left for me to do is to add dimension to the shapes with shadows and highlights. I saved a bunch of pictures to use as references to understand how I wanted to shape the body, but I forgot to use them. Maybe I was just tired after 4 hours of literally no progress. So at the end, I just fake my way out until the shading looks decent enough for my non-expert eyes. I left the hairstyle for last because I wasn't sure what to do with it. I often find it weird when I watch these redraw your old art videos where the character changes so much by the end that they become unrecognizable. With that being said, I still gave up on trying to replicate the original hairstyle because I felt it wasn't working very well with my new fairy. I remember also I didn't have references back then for the hair, so I just Tinkerbell her hair and call it a day. This time I decided to follow my heart and created 3 different hairstyles for her just for the fun of it. One for the comparison and other 2 that I thought looked cute on her. Overall, I'm very happy with my new fairy M. I've been so focused on practicing that I stopped making original art. I believe in what I said at the beginning about your old art not just being cringe. I think that's true in the sense that whenever I look back to check on my past drawings, I of course notice all the myriad of things I did wrong, but in turn I also rediscover in a way all the things that make me feel excited about creating more art. Even when I feel I'll never be good at this as I would like to. And I love to learn as much as I can about all the things one can do to be a more skilled artist. But I've noticed that if I'm not careful with this art student grind mindset, I'll forget to exercise my creativity, and the only thing that I'll put out there will be drawings that do not represent at all the things that I truly enjoy drawing. So yeah, my old art can be cringy at times, or most of the time if I'm honest, but I think it doesn't only show us how much our skills have grown over time, but also the things that felt like a call to make art in the first place. And this is the final result. What do you think?